Hi, this is Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse Frugally, and I am participating in October's What Would You Make? And I am starting with this wood table that I found for free. And I have to say straight up, I am not a fan of mid-century modern. I think it's probably because I grew up with it, but I don't love the colors and I don't really like the style for my home, but I appreciate the solid wood. I appreciate the construction, and I thought this would be a great seller because I know a lot of people really do like mid-century modern, and it would get me out of my comfort zone and make me do something just a little bit different. So I decided to take it home. Now, it is, really badly scratched. It is in really bad shape as far as the top goes. The rest of it, not so much, but it had deep gouges and scratches and God knows what, ink stains and what have you all over it. And it is the hardest piece of wood I have ever attempted to sand in my life. I don't know if it's solid maple or solid ash, but it is solid. And when I flipped it over, I then recognized the maker's mark, and I should have checked first. This is a Hayward, and it has a value of about $1,600. However, when I did a further research, they basically indicated that if it's that far gone on the top, you have to refinish it. So I was taking my chances. I was never going to make $1,600 on this anyway, but I did think that it would be worth continuing, to just keep refinishing it and not try to, get it back to its former glory. So I went with my vision that I had initially with this. After sanding and sanding and sanding with a heavy grit, I then went ahead and put on a much lighter grit and then sanded over again the whole thing until it was very, very smooth to the touch and would accept the next stain after I cleaned that really good with a rag and got that all off and let that dry. Then I pulled out the only stain that I had that sort of 60s orangey tone that the base of this table has. Now, I certainly am not going to keep it in this orange tone, but you have to trust the process here. So the color that I am using is Colonial Maple, and I do think that that is fairly similar to the base of this table. So after I got that nicely stirred and ready to go, then I am going to apply that to the area on the top here that I had spent so much time sanding, and then I am going to see what I want to do from there. I have an idea in my mind of what I'm thinking, but you know how these things go. It may or may not come out the way that you envision it. And I absolutely know as I'm putting this Colonial Maple down that I absolutely hate it. It is not even remotely anything that I would want. But again, like I said, sometimes you just have to trust the process. And so once I get that on, I decide to change from a brush to a rag, and I do think that that is going to help me apply this more evenly, and I definitely prefer the way that it is looking as I get it on with the rag, and I can smooth that out and have it not be quite so orangey and blend that in. So that did help a bit. And so once I have that done, I step back and I say, okay, this is what it looks like. And it is a fairly good match, a little orangey and a little darker than the base, but in general, it has a very similar feel to it. And so once that is completely dry, I then take some neutral drop cloth. I don't remember exactly what the color is. I think it is in the drop cloth linen kind of family here, and I add water to this. I get it really well watered down because I want to give this a paint wash. And so I am taking a wide brush, and unfortunately it is breezy out here and it is a little bit sunny, and so this is drying just a little faster than I want it to. I probably should have done it in smaller sections here. So I grab a rag real quick to see how it is going to wipe back, because I don't want it to be completely painted. I want it to be a wash, and I do want some of this to show through. So then I decide to add a little bit more water at some point and get myself this just thinned out just a little bit more. But the wash, I think, was the right idea for the look that I was going for. It just, the application of it all just took me a minute to get that the way that I wanted. Before I continue, I want to remind you this is What Would You Make, and I am going to link Brenda and Christine and Lisa's channels in the description box, as well as a playlist of everybody else who's joined into this challenge. So make sure when you're finished here that you go over to that description box and check out what each of them made with wood this month. And then I did water down the second coat just a little bit more and tried to do straight, long strokes right across the entire table so that that would be less blotchy and have a more streamlined look for that second coat. So just wiping that back as I go so that I can see some of the color underneath show through. And so I do this over the whole table, and I do want a little bit of that orangey tone because I'm going to keep the base. The base is in really good shape. It had a couple marks on it. I took a Mr. Clean eraser and I just kind of got any scuff marks off of it and did the best I could, but it was, you know, really 95%. I don't think it was worth taking the time to sand the entire base down. And if I did, I maybe would have done something in black, but my husband did not think, neither did my daughter, that a black base would have been good on this anyway. So I had to agree once it was done. But again, mid-century modern, not my thing. So I am stretching myself here. So I get this whole thing finished and let that dry thoroughly. And then I decide that I am going to give this a finish with a poly coat, and I am going to use a high gloss. The base of it does have a gloss, and I do feel like the age of it and the fact that it is a coffee table and will obviously very likely have drinks and other things set on it does lend itself to needing more of a gloss finish. Not usually my style. I much prefer a matte, but I do think that that actually was the right call. And then once I have that gloss finish and it is completely dry, we listed that and it sold, I think, in 2 days. And the woman that came drove all the way from Vermont to New Hampshire to pick it up. She absolutely loved mid-century modern. It was totally her style, and she was delighted with it. So I am very glad that somebody did appreciate it. I am glad that I kept it from the landfill, and I'm glad that I stepped out of my comfort zone. Now, my husband actually really did like it, and he would have liked me to keep it, but I consider my style to be more of a neutral vintage farmhouse, and I think it was just a little too eclectic for my taste. Although the color definitely was right, definitely not my style. So I am really, really glad that she loved it, she appreciated it, and I was able to make a little bit of money as well as save it up from the landfill. So thank you so much for your comments. Let me know what you think about it, if you like mid-century modern, and I want to thank you so much for stopping by. Do not forget to check out the other creators in this playlist and the host channels. It is such a fun collaboration, so I'm sure that you will enjoy what they made with wood as well. Make sure you are subscribed for my 12 Days of Christmas coming up, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.